This is Coda Radio, episode 182 for December 7th, 2015. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technology. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, but joining us every single week is our host over there on the East Coast, ready to go with a beer in his hand. Why, yes, folks, it's Mr. Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it is the season. It is the holiday season. And as such, I have a little holiday cheer, Mr. Dominic. You have a little holiday cheer yourself.
I do indeed. Hang on, I'm pouring a beer into the microphone.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Make sure that's good.
The effect.
Good good. Yeah, right there. Get it in there. It's good podcasting technique. It's theater of the mind.
So, before we get into the really vindictive episode we have today, what beer did you bring to the table?
All right, so you suggested like a Sam Adams seasonal, which was real solid to me, and I figured it'd be easy to get on the West and East Coast. So I thought that was a pretty good recommendation on your part. But the place I went to was the only thing they sold was just regular Sam Adams Boston Lager, no holiday variety.
Really?
So I did get a 6-pack of that just in case I need a backup beer. I need because I don't want to put all my beer eggs in one beer basket.
Of course.
So I decided but for the Coda Radio holiday season, I decided to get myself a real big SOB here, a Pyramid Snowcap Winter Warmer, they call it, the Winter Warmer Ale. It has a APV of 7%. It's 1 pint, 6 fluid ounces, and because it's so big, it feels good in the hand. Feels real good. Yeah. It's got a good hand feel, as they say.
All right. So, and how's that going for you?
I hate it. I do not like it. I mean, well, it might have been because during the pre-show, I was drinking the Boston Lager to kind of just
Sure.
save the winter ale, and so now I went from a real stereotypical here's a lager, and it's just nothing surprising. That thing is a dialed in lager, an American lager, nothing really to write home about, but nothing to complain about. And so I went from that to this, which is an extremely pungent beer. With a much higher APV because the Boston Lager is only 4%, whereas this is 7%. So it's got just a lot more in your mouth, and so it's like after you brush your teeth and you drink orange juice. Mm. So what are you drinking, sir?
Well, I have the Sam Adams Irish Red.
Ooh.
It is a 5.8% by volume. It's an ale. It's trying to be like an Irish red ale. Let me take another sip here before I judge it too hard.
Mine's not so bad if I chug-a-lug it. It's when I sip it.
It's not bad, but if you've ever had like a Killian's Red or really any other like real Irish red ale, you're going to quickly realize that this does not succeed at that.
Yeah.
It does succeed at being a decent beer. Like, it is okay. I would totally drink this again. But it is not what they claim. Let me just read you the bottle, and none of this is true. Hearty and comforting with a roasty sweetness, earthy English hops. I mean, it tastes like O'Neill, right? But it doesn't have it's not particularly hoppy. I don't know where they're getting sweet from, unless I just happen to pick a bad bottle out of the pack here, right? No. I mean, but again, that's the thing with Sam Adams, right? It is always okay.
Mine doesn't have a nice story. Mine just says, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcohol beverages during pregnancy. That's a good tip.
Mine has all kinds of stuff on here.
That's a good tip.
Samuel Adams himself is raising a glass to me.
Although this was bottled here in Seattle or Portland, it says. So there's something to that.
That's hipster beer.
That's, Oh, there you go. Well, Mr. Dominic, I have a couple other unofficial items that maybe we could get into since it is the holiday season around here. So every now and then, there's an elf going around the Jupiter Broadcasting website and dropping a link in shows for free swag. And there's a rumor going around this might be one of those episodes, 182 of Coda Radio. You might just find a swag link in the show notes. And if you have a successful Patreon payment in the month of November, or maybe even in December, you'll be entered to win some free swag. We just sent out some swag for the Linux Action Show. Now, there is some really good stuff. No joke. Ange actually set up a Christmas tree in the studio For real. And she wrapped all the different swag items under the Christmas tree because she's all in on this. She loves it. She's like a swag elf herself. And so we have a Christmas tree now in the Jupiter Broadcasting Studio with different swag items underneath it that we'll be unwrapping and giving away. And this morning, she just unwrapped and gave away a really nice. You can't quite see it in the picture, but it is a solid glass toaster. It's a glass toaster. Get it? It's a toaster for your beer. Or it's a coaster for your beer.
A coaster for your beer.
Yeah, it's a glass coaster. Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
and it's really nice. It's a nice thick glass, and So that was one of the swags that just got unwrapped today.
Damn.
Cool.
Now, are you selling these as well or no?
Nope, just giving them away. We just have the link in the show notes. We do have up for sale right now the last jacket. It's returned, and it's over on Sunday at teespring.com/lastus. Get the jacket.
I need to go check that because it is finally gotten cold.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. So you've had a busy day. Anything you want to share with the audience before we move on? I mean, we don't have to, but
let's just say another developer is joining the ranks.
Yeah.
Come April.
No, really, we're gonna do this now. So, let's see. Mr. Dominic is compiling a new set of code. Let's see, or his wife is. His wife is actually.
He had to do a git merge.
Yeah. Oh no.
This is gonna get so weird.
Oh no.
A request of sorts. No. but yes, there is another, God willing, not Swift developer coming.
Congratulations, and rumor has it a boy at that, which is very exciting.
I was not going to say that, but yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry about that. My first was a boy, and let me tell you, it's very exciting. It is very exciting.
Yes, it is. Now he's doing April, so we're pretty much halfway there.
Now, are you starting to freak out at all about about all the stuff you have to get? Because you are up against Christmas, and then right after that, you got to start buying stuff. It's going to be tight on the budget.
And our anniversary is mid-April, and the baby's due the end of April. So financially, it's going to be a disaster.
That's a hell of an anniversary gift, though.
Yeah, it is indeed. She's a trooper.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Dominic, and I send best wishes to you and the wife. And when April, we'll all be looking forward for good news.
Yeah, so I'm already picking out baby's first Arduino board.
Right.
And let's not forget the old educational distro, Ubuntu. I forgot the name of the spin, but there was one.
You know what else? You have to consider is what language are you going to start with, right? All these things now, you got to wait probably at least till they're 2. But something to consider.
No, they have blocks.
Oh, good.
They have blocks for babies that teach programming. There's a little if block. I swear, you can order them online.
I love it. You know who else is a big fan of developers? That Mr. Steve Ballmer. And he has a few things to say.
Oh, he's got a lot to say.
He has a few. Yeah, he does. So Microsoft held their first annual, not their first. I don't know why I said that.
They've just been lying for 20 years. Well, according to Ballmer, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So Microsoft held an annual shareholder meeting, leaving one significant Microsoft shareholder to complain. That would be Mr. Ballmer. It seems to be that he's not happy with the way they report their financial performance, both on their hardware business and on the cloud business. And I don't know if maybe he's just feeling like it's his place to say now or what, but he says it's because the company hasn't been disclosing profit margins or sales figures for either business. What they're saying, according to Ballmer, is they're giving you a key metric of revenue that is more. Well, it's more of how they could be doing. So rather than reporting the exact figures of what they're earning, Microsoft has reported it's annualized its revenue run rate, a hypothetical value that describes what the company's revenue would be if the current level of sales were sustained over the full year. Ballmer's view on the run rate, he says it's bullshit. Quote directly from Ballmer. He says they should report the revenue, not the run rate. Now, Nadella was asked about the lack of major application for Windows Phone, by the way. And he says, no, look, we have a great universal app strategy. Ballmer comes back and says, won't work. He says they need to get Android apps to run on Windows 10 mobile. Was developed just to enable this, but appears they've sidelined it for no clear reasons, he says. So 2 big things here, Mike, and I'm curious what you think about with... So we've talked, and the reason why I brought this up is because we've talked a lot about, in the last 3-4 months, about Microsoft's shift to Azure, the strategy they're building there, the fact that they seem to be embracing more and more open source in order to sort of move that platform forward. But when you actually look at it, maybe it's not as successful as they've led us to believe. Because you can have a lot of different people on Azure for different reasons, and a lot of them can have free
tiers, free credits.
Yeah, credits is what I was going to do. Microsoft exchanges credits in a lot of cases for different businesses when they come in.
So can I fry some conspiracy bacon?
Ooh, do you want? I got some bacon right here. Here, I'll throw it on for you, buddy. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Juicy. So Ballmer was always really bad at like making Microsoft sexy, but really good at making a ton of freaking money. And I'm wondering if he, knowing the business better than probably anyone listening to this, isn't totally aware of what, maybe Nadella's doing a better job at making Microsoft, quote, relevant in the zeitgeist again. Even then, I would probably say that that's not worth
so you think this is more about protecting his legacy and be like, well,
no,
yeah,
I think he sees through the bullshit, actually. I think because he was 2 years ago, it was him. He knows what the numbers ought to be, right? And he knows what it costs to run these services.
And he knows if they were really good, they would be promoting them.
Right. And this is the kind of nonsense that listen to Paul Thurrott on this, the Microsoft reporting stuff. They have a really sneaky way of hiding things, right? Of hiding losses. And Bing straight up lost millions of dollars for how many years?
Yeah, right. And then they just sort of folded it into something else. Yes, yes.
Put it in a division that made money so it wouldn't look so bad. I don't see a lot of the comments, a lot of the online kind of journalistic response to this has been a little negative on Ballmer. Sure, he's probably pissed, right?
Or bitter is sort of the spin, right?
He's also like a 10% shareholder in a major company. So he, hurting Microsoft is not in his interest. What else is not in his interest, though? Someone spending their way to become relevant again, right? He's a major shareholder. In a way, that's his money. And I could definitely see Ballmer saying, "What are you doing? You're spending all this money trying to popularize Azure. Mm-hmm. What is top line revenue, right? What is profit at the end of the year? They don't really share."
So what does Ballmer gain, though, by coming out there?
Just throw one more thing at you. Okay. I am not a CPA or a lawyer, but I can tell you from experience, if you give the IRS an answer like Nadella gave Ballmer, you go to freaking jail or get audited first.
Yeah, that is peculiar, that reporting that particular metric. And the fact that nobody's been reporting on that in the media is also kind of peculiar.
The fact that they're a public company, the fact that that was somehow acceptable.
Yeah.
The SEC didn't say, "I'm sorry, we need," just like every other company in the world, I need revenue, expenses, profit. Right? You can jerry-rig that any way you want.
So, but long term here, do you think Ballmer's motivation is just to protect his revenue as a shareholder?
I think it's financial. I mean, there's probably some ego in there too, but ultimately, I think it comes down to, all right, one, I've always felt Ballmer got blamed for things that weren't necessarily his fault, right? I don't think his tenure was as bad as The Verge might have you think. If the goal of a business is to make money, he was fantastic. If the goal of a business to have a charismatic, popular CEO who it's great to write, human interest stories about, then Nadella is far better. The problem is Nadella really turning the types of profits that Ballmer used to turn? And I don't understand why we can't just see the figures. Why can't, like every other public company, they file the papers with accepted accounting, no voodoo, no bullshit, and say, and that's what, and that bullshit word is Ballmer's word, not mine, right?
Right.
And say, well, actually, is Nadella doing as well as Ballmer was? And if he's doing better, great. And if he's doing worse, okay, but is there some other soft benefit that he's gained that would justify the financial loss? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. The only reason he's not shouting from the rooftops how much money they're making is because they're probably not making that much more.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
There's either no growth or contracted growth, right? So
I observe a very interesting trend doing these shows for as long as I have now, and I want to talk to you about it for a second because it's almost like the press can't write anything bad about Satya Nadella, so they waited for Ballmer to write it or to say it, and then they all wrote it. So this one of the pieces that you tweeted at me over the weekend, it basically talks. The author's like, well, now that Ballmer's saying this, I can say this too. In fact, he says, he's full disclosure, Ballmer's complaints echo complaints I have made about Microsoft during the Nadella era, so I'm perhaps not the most dispassionate observer here. Now all of a sudden it's okay to say it. Now, Paul Thurrott has been one guy that's actually been saying this all along.
He's had
but
the balls to do it, right.
None of the other journalists have. And it's something interesting that I've noticed a trend in the tech industry that when a new CEO comes in most cases, not always, but in most cases, when it's a rock star CEO, they can do no wrong. They are going to change that company. Yep. They're going to bring revolution, like Satya is right now to Microsoft, right?
Can you say Marissa Mayer?
Exactly what I was just going to say.
She's done nothing. In fact, she's probably somehow Yahoo Inc. is worth negative money.
Yeah.
The stock of Yahoo, if you add it all together, is worth less than their share of Alibaba is worth. Mathematically, that makes no sense.
And now you are seeing tons and tons of press about Marissa Mayer's severance package, or scrutiny on Marissa Mayer grows more intense. This is a cycle that the press goes through. If you rewind to when she went to Yahoo, it was article after article. She was on the cover of magazines.
Let's be fair, though, right? The time, and I don't want to hit this too hard because this show has intentionally avoided this kind of conversation. But when Nadella and Mayer came up to be the respective CEOs of Microsoft and Yahoo, was right in the middle of the whole diversity and women in tech kind of, let's just call it the brouhaha, right? So, it was perfect timing for them. It was a great story. I mean, if you're a PR guy, that is the perfect time to have them. Now I'm starting to see that kind of fall away a little bit. But I would even challenge, if Steve Ballmer got hired instead of Marissa Mayer as CEO of Yahoo, would he have been given 5 years to screw up? Oh, and throw a $2 million, or what was it, $7 million Wizard of Oz photo shoot? Did you hear about that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, no one, there's definitely some double standard, and this is a dangerous topic, so I'm going to walk away from it because this is what we call a career killer.
Yeah, I follow you. What I want to double back on here is I think that perhaps this is sort of the issue we face in the sense that the press is not reporting on Nadella doing something a little sneaky, because right now the narrative is he's changing Microsoft. Cloud is the future. Azure is the future of Microsoft. Microsoft is having success in the cloud, and it's all because of Satya Nadella. And if all of a sudden you wrote, they might actually not be making that much money, or they're not making nearly as much. What they're reporting is money they would be making if everyone on the service was paying full price. That's the number they're reporting, not what they're actually getting paid. And we're not talking about that because it doesn't fit the narrative of the cloud is the future, Azure is the future, Microsoft has success with Azure, and Nadella is leading all of that. It doesn't fit that narrative, so we don't talk about it. So when Ballmer comes out and talks about it, now all of a sudden the press has an excuse to write about it. I think that's...
So you think it's just... I think we have a slightly different take. I think it's fear, right? I really think it's, there are certain things that a journalist could do that would be very dangerous for his or her career.
Right. Right now they want access to Satya because he's the hot story. So if they write bad things about him, they get their access cut off.
They get access, right.
In fact, this story gets them more access because this sort of spurs Nadella to come out and say something and give somebody else another story. It's the perfect thing. It's all, and you know what, though? Ballmer makes a good point, which is, I wonder how many times we'll be saying that down the road. You know what? Ballmer has a good point. That could become a new catchphrase. Besides, developers, as we well know. I don't know. Any other thoughts on this, Mr. Dominic?
No, I think it's, it's a conversation worth having for somebody else who is not either of us.
There you go.
All right. I are in the worst position, so let's just move away.
All right, so let me tell you about something that is in the cloud and is legit. That's DigitalOcean. They're a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to spin up your own cloud server. This is a really great way to get a project up for testing or for production, or really build some back-end infrastructure. You can get started in less than 55 seconds, and the pricing plans start at only $5 a month. And if you use our promo code CODERDIGITAL, Coder Digital will give you a credit for 2 months, and you can try it out absolutely free. Like, we got an email in from Patrick. Patrick did this. He says, "Hello, I'm a teenager in high school, and this show has inspired me to get my toes wet in some development. I recently created a DigitalOcean droplet, using your promo code, of course, and I spun up a website to track matching band scores in, he probably meant marching, but he said matching band scores in Florida. It says you can see the site at floridamarching.org. That's pretty cool. I was surprised at how easy it was to get the server up and running, as I have no prior experience in this. And of course, the promo code gave me 2 months of service, which is perfect for marching band season. Thanks again, Patrick. DigitalOcean.com. Use our promo code. You get the 2-month credit. You can try out a rig 2 months for free. It's Coder Digital. It's a really great system. They have data centers in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, Germany, Toronto, and I mean data centers. They have a great, simple, intuitive control panel that is very powerful, allows you to deploy applications. If you have very little experience or if you have years of experience, you're going to appreciate things about DigitalOcean and their fantastic API. So use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, support this show, and keep it going. Remember, they have fantastic tutorials, a lot of good open code already written for you to take advantage of. You're going to be impressed with the range they've managed to strike here. And they have some great distributions for you to choose, like CentOS, CoreOS, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, and FreeBSD. One-click deployment of great open source applications. Really, have you been thinking about GitLab? Why not try it out for a couple of months for free? Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL and do it. Go to DigitalOcean.com, play with a Docker image and send it up there. I'm telling you, it rocks. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, and a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder of Radio program. Now, last week on this show, on Monday, we said a few things about Swift. Like, we don't really know when it's going to be open source. We don't know if they're going to... They said the end of 2015. Well, guess what? It's the end of 2015.
Tuesday.
Where is it? Then, Tuesday, code drops, swift.org. Swift is now open source, just like that. I had a summary. I had a quick summary here I wanted to read to you before we get into it. But it's Apache 2.0 licensed, has full standard and core libraries included, plus the compiler, plus copyright owned by the contributor, no CLA, good community structure and documentation already in place, plus a code of conduct, good to go. By the end of the week, that's all. By the end of Tuesday, that was all in place. Some people say they kind of nailed it. The love is ridiculous online. You have any first reactions?
I was feeling the love too.
Really? What was it that you were loving specifically?
The fact that it's on GitHub was
yeah.
That's really all I cared about.
Yeah. Not like on like some Apple website where it will rock.
Yeah, some like weird SVN thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy says on his blog, not only is Swift on GitHub, which some people thought was going to be open source.apple.com, but the Swift team will be working completely in the open. Apple did a spectacular job with the release. Not only do we have the full source code, but we have the entire commit history, which I linked to the first commit in the show notes, for each project, and a very detailed view into Swift team's development process and access to the Swift evolution process. And everything you need to know is on swift.org. First commitment was on July 17th, 2010. Swift repo surpassed 10,000 stars in the first 24 hours. It now has over 19,000 stars and 2,000 forks as of this blog post. It has over 400 pull requests across all the repos. And there is some interesting things in there. There were some people, there's some crash dump histories that have been submitted by other people that are included in there. Comments that are in there. Swift compiler crashes is the one I'm talking about. You can see hints of what's coming down, like type alias will be replaced with associated. I guess they've already been, Jacob Banders Soch, I think is how you say him, submitted 2 pull requests that fix a total of 400 crashes already. And the Swift team seems like they've been very good at actually taking in even really small contributions. So my initial reaction is like, actually, way more impressed than I expected to be when we recorded the episode last week.
They did this the right way. And really a lot of strong Linux support and server-side support too. So now, I'm going to go totally back on last week's episode. If IBM is really willing to work with them on this, they may finally be able to put the stake in the vampire that is WebObjects' heart.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I could see that too. I could see that. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now, I want to talk to you about something that I mentioned in LAS, but I haven't heard anybody else really talk about. And it kind of seems like one of the biggest sub-stories of this release. You kind of just hinted at it. Swift open source is available for Mac OS and Ubuntu. Ubuntu 14.04 and 15.10, I believe. Like the most current version of Ubuntu and the most current LTS.
LTS, right.
Not even source code for Windows. Nothing for Windows. Not even... And then when they were asked about it, they're like, oh, well, if the community wants to, make a port or something, that's fine.
Well, I mean...
Windows is such a non-story, Mike, that nobody even mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the story here? That the developers that are likely to take an interest in Swift are not going to be running Windows?
Windows Server isn't a thing on, data centers and organizations all over the country and world that have iPhones and iPads.
I have not seen too many scenarios where like people in the mobile space have had to deal with Windows Server.
I'm not surprised that Apple didn't do it. What I'm surprised is that to me it seems like a statement of how irrelevant Windows is as a developer platform.
Well, I think that's whoa. I see what you did there. Irrelevant to Apple, sure. Irrelevant to IBM, yes. Irrelevant to people who'd be writing Swift, 100%.
I don't know if I agree with you on that.
So you're just saying blanket.
I think
Windows is irrelevant for developers.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying Apple is saying that, and every other person out there who failed to report on the fact that there's no Windows build is saying that. What I'm saying is, here's why it's noteworthy to me, Mike, is because I have lived in a world my entire life where software shipping for Windows and not shipping for Linux or Mac is just the norm. That's standard. It's not even newsworthy that there's not a Linux version or a Mac version.
I'm familiar with this world.
And now that world has just flipped around, and there is an Ubuntu version, and there is a Mac version, and there is no Windows version, and it's so unnoteworthy that nobody's even talking about it. And I agree it is a huge part because Swift does not directly overlay with the target audience of Windows. I think if you ask the Microsoft team that built the Surface Book and Windows 10 and that wants Windows to be a relevant platform, I think they would disagree with you very strongly. They want anything that people might be working on for web technologies to be usable under Windows. They want Windows to be able to be the front end and the back end for that. And this is a huge area for them, and this is a major oversight. The whole point of the new Surface Book is to make it.
Okay, but okay.
Do you not see? You don't see what a statement this is?
I don't. I think it's. I mean, I think you're putting words in their mouth that may be true, but it's certainly a statement of limited time equals dropping the least relevant platform. But
yeah, and you just said it, the least relevant platform.
Right, but you know who will definitely make it work on Windows? Or more particularly Azure? Microsoft. So why not have Microsoft waste their time doing this, right? Waste their employees' time, waste payroll, waste
and
resources.
I guess, when you make it a legit open source project, that can happen.
Got it right. Swift is open source. Let MS port it.
Yeah, and it is legit. It's up on GitHub. It's Apache 2.0, right. So Microsoft's likely to be willing to touch it. They retain copyright ownership too, so again, Microsoft's likely to be willing to touch it. Apple set this up in a way to make that as possible for Microsoft to do as they could. Now we'll have to see if Microsoft does
it. It's possible, right, that, and I don't want to fuel your fire too much here because, Satya would stab me in the heart, that Apple just didn't even have Microsoft on the damn radar, right? That there was no intentional slight here. That, most iOS apps, I would be willing to bet any amount of money, are talking to some sort of Linux or Unix-based backends, right? It could even be crazy-ass BSD if you want.
Yeah, I agree with you until we start talking enterprise and we start talking about deals with IBM and IBM getting
but
iOS
IBM
devices.
Is not going to be selling them Windows solutions.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
I would be relatively sure. But, okay, I mean, taking to your logical conclusion, your argument is that Apple is like basically putting their stamp of irrelevancy on Windows now. They're saying, Microsoft is kind of out of the game.
No, I'm not saying that. No, my point is I'm not too surprised that Apple did it. What is surprising to me is that it's just such a non-story and that nobody...
Well, the other open source thing that someone mentioned in the chat this week was the Edge browser from Microsoft.
Yeah, their JavaScript engine, right?
It's too bad it's not going to matter.
Listen to you.
Bam. Roasted.
Wow. Oh my God. This is not where I wanted this to go. My point was not to hate on Microsoft.
Well, neither is mine, right? The point is that I think this is actually more about Google, is where I was going to go with this. Swift on the server with IBM collaboration is going to be an answer to Go. And remember, who knows how much Apple does or doesn't care about Swift on the server, right? That all remains to be seen. The other thing here is that it's pretty telling that Microsoft open sourced their JavaScript engine, and there's not a whole lot of ink about that. Oh, the other thing would be, I mean, hasn't V8 / Chrome gotten like a Windows, Internet Explorer 6 style monopoly at this point?
No, not like the old battle days, but they do have an impressive market share, yeah.
Impressive. I'll give you impressive. I mean, let's just broadly say WebKit and WebKit related.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, WebKit.
Then it's like 90%, really. Maybe I'm coming to your side. Do they matter anymore? And maybe just to go full circle here, is that what Ballmer's not saying? Maybe, everybody, I know we're going to get hate mail because I was hard on everybody's golden girl, Marissa Mayer, who I love, by the way, and Satya Nadella, who I like a bit less. But maybe all these trade-offs that Nadella is making haven't paid off. Did anybody think of that? I mean, where's the developer mindshare?
That definitely hasn't paid off. No, I mean, I think what I speculate where it's paid off is on-premises installations of Microsoft Active Directory and Exchange and
wait.
Dynamics.
You think this Azure strategy has increased on-prem installations?
No, I think that's where I would imagine a lot of their
loss has been from that.
If people are they're picking up people that are maybe moving from like SQL on premises to SQL in the cloud, and they're building. People are building now on Azure instead of building on premises.
All right, so let's take our time machines back to the 90s for a minute.
Oh, I have a time machine, but okay, all right.
Let's do it.
I don't know. Actually, I think I don't. I don't know. Well, let me see.
Do you remember
time machine? Let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it.
Or even the early 2000s, if we don't want to go that far.
And you don't mean the backup software. Oh no, you do not mean the backup software.
I mean not Orson. Yeah, Orson Welles style. Let's get in the time machine.
Oh yeah, with a big old clock on the back.
A little big old clock. Remember going somewhere, and maybe the 90s is a little too early, but early 2000s, going into a business and trying to sell them not Microsoft technology.
Oh, yeah. Of course I remember that.
Remember when VBA was a buzzword?
Yeah. SQL.
Now, can you not see a world where, a lot of companies still have the developers report to IT, which is, by the way, the cruelest thing you could possibly do, because IT people are just awful.
Yeah, except for developers are crazy and they'll just do anything if you don't keep them checked in. You gotta check in on them or else they'll just run crazy.
But how much easier is it for that IT manager to be like, all I need to hire for is Swift? Because it reminds me of the all I need to hire for is Basic or ASP. And with IBM, your friendly neighborhood IBM rep coming in and selling you whatever the hell kind of services or servers he's selling you. Does this not all kind of come together to trying to create a much weaker version of the Microsoft lock from the 90s?
I don't feel like Apple really has any chance of success.
Oh no,
brewing from the enterprise in.
It's not going to work.
Enterprises inherently don't trust Apple because Apple is secretive about their release cadence, about security updates, there's so much information that Apple sits on that as an enterprise you need for predictability that makes them risky. But if enough of your user base, and not just your user base, but the important user base, like the decision makers or the people that you need to hire and you want to incentivize to work for you, if they come on board and they say, I want a MacBook and I want an iPhone and I want to develop in Swift, or what legitimately happens a lot too, I want a Linux laptop. That's what I did, and that's what a lot of people in our audience have done. They come in and say, I'll work here, but you have to give me a Linux computer. That's becoming more and more common, and when Swift reaches that point, I think that's really where it could fill that gap in where the enterprise goes, well, we could just go Swift all across the board. That could definitely be a possibility, but to get there, you would need sort of a grassroots sort of swelling of support where people are building cool open source projects on Swift, and the Linux development side is really proving to be something that you could actually bet on and ship something on. And it's probably going to take till Swift 3 before we're even at that, real kind of even that point where where it could actually take off. I think right now Swift is still too early. There's still big changes coming to Swift, and people don't trust Apple not to completely break things in order to embrace the next thing that they might need in the next version. So I think that's got to work out for a little bit too.
Adam,
you know what was popular amongst the audience about Swift?
What's that?
The package
Emoji?
manager. No, the Swift
God.
Package Manager is a tool for managing the distribution of Swift code. It's integrated with the Swift build system to automate the process of downloading, compiling, and linking dependencies. Not unheard of, but you know what? A decent, nice feature to have that's a little more mature than...
The real story here, though, for some reason, you and I woke up on the we hate Microsoft side of the bed again this morning. You know what this means for me, though, right, Chris? It means Swift's not going to go the way of Cocoa Java.
Oh yeah,
or OpenDoc. It's not going.
Yeah.
It's on.
The genie's out of the bottle now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too late. My hopes of a little cradle death syndrome for Swift are not going to happen.
There's no putting this one back. Apple can't put this away.
No, and I don't think they want to, right? But those of us who might have preferred a world without it.
And what are your thoughts on that?
So I've been secretly toying with Swift. Not so secretly, since I've mentioned it at least a dozen times on the show.
And on Twitter.
And on Twitter. I go through different stages of disgust / okay, well, that makes sense. Right now, I'm in love with the guard keyword, which is a really stupid thing to like. But for those who don't know, a guard is basically if not. So it's like guard, object is null or whatever, right? Because that's a pretty common pattern, right? You just got to make sure something isn't null. Super common in Objective-C. But I still... How can I say this? On a greenfield project where you're going from file new, I would be willing to say, assuming now with Swift 2, yeah, go ahead and use Swift. I would probably use Swift 2 now. But...
Really?
Anything that is already written or you need to tie into existing code, I still don't think that bridging is good enough. And I really, really don't. I want to walk this back a little bit. I would not be super willing to take, let's say if Mercedes-Benz hired Buccaneer to do an app, I'm not sure that I would, make that project a Swift project. Because I don't know, I like my programming languages like I like my scotch. Old enough to order its own scotch.
And of course, but then again, if you're doing something like Crossy Road or an intranet app that checks the employee phone list, that might be...
Yeah, anything small, or if you're doing your own app and you're not going to get fired or sued if you don't get it done on time.
Right, yeah.
One thing longtime listeners of the show will know, I have a pretty low risk tolerance in terms of that sort of thing. But I don't... I still don't know why Swift had to happen other than the reasons it's good for Apple. I've listened to all the arguments about how it's a, quote, better programming language than Objective-C. It's certainly more convenient in some ways, but it is not, I don't think it's a super fair comparison. Yes, they're both programming languages, but to me, it's almost like Java to Scala. Sure, they're similar. Sure, you can write Scala like it's Java, but, it's a little unfair to Java to put up the equivalent Scala method and say it's shorter and so much simpler and you avoid this problem when they're really trying to do two different things. Mm-hmm. I'm working on a post about this. Swift is really not object-oriented. In fact, it's not, right? It's, what is it? Protocol-oriented, I think the word we're using for. And you can totally write OO style Swift if you want to, and it's garbage. So it's really a shift, and it's... I haven't seen anything that convinces me that it had to happen for reasons other than Apple wanted it to happen. There is no, this is the way you should think about it. This is the Cliff Notes version. There's nothing that I can write in Swift. There's nothing I think anybody can write in Swift that isn't possible in Objective-C.
I'm reading right now about their Swift Linux port.
Yeah, that's the really interesting part. So it doesn't have the OBC runtime.
Yeah.
I have not gotten to try it on Linux yet.
It has the glibc module for most of the Linux C standard library.
So one area that Swift might do well in is if somebody made like a Linux UI layer for it. So if you were doing a Macintosh app and you could get some sort of cross-platform goodness to Linux, but again,
Or it might, if it would make it easier to run Qt or GTK applications on both Mac
or it could
or
be a
Linux.
language for Qt, actually.
Yeah.
It's open source. I don't know, Chris. I mean, what are your thoughts? You have the advantage of not kind of being screwed by this.
Well, I think the Apache 2.0 licensing is an interesting choice by Apple, and I think it's one that's probably a good choice if they want to get big commercial companies to be touching
Well, it shows that
and
they're
massaging
serious,
it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, like I said, the genie's out of the bottle now. So there's that. And I think of projects like, I was thinking about it in the context of would open source projects, established open source projects, be willing to use something like this? And I look at the folks at like say Elementary OS where they might be inclined to use something like Vala, and I wonder if maybe down the road this might not be. If your target is I'm not trying to be derogatory towards Elementary OS, but let's say your target is sort of a hipstery type MacBook crowd that maybe are looking for something for an OS that doesn't feel like it constantly is being tugged around by a strategy tax. So you want to switch to Linux.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. You just want to get your work done and you don't care about their damn future strategy tax. And let's be honest, every single version of macOS for the last 3 releases has been terrible in some unique and special way.
Snow Leopard would still be an improvement.
Yeah, and when you're in production and you're really pushing these systems and that's really all you use them for, it is extremely frustrating that crap like iCloud Keychain and all this other crap is, see, I'm getting so mad I'm throwing stuff away, is breaking stuff. And so you can see how people maybe would want to switch to something like Elementary OS, which is still very nice and refined, based on a long-term supported version of Ubuntu. And if, for future versions of Elementary OS made it really easy to support things like Swift, and so you could just make that switch really easily, and you stack something on top of Swift, like you're saying, to actually be able to make a graphical application.
People will, right? I mean, within 6 months, we're going to have a whole bunch of companies wanting to sell you toolkits.
Maybe we would actually see some interesting stuff being developed there. I mean, I was really, truly waiting to see if they made their 2015 deadline and what the license was going to be. And then I was going to make my decision. I still don't think any reasonable deployment would be running Swift on a server at this point.
And that's kind of my point, right? Like, totally cool to play with, but are you really going to ship this for a client?
It depends on what, like what you said. It's what's the use? What is that use case? And if it's not super critical or very important, then you could go with something like Swift 2. But just looking at what's out there now, you can see major changes are coming.
Right. I would also want to add, because people will email this, Federici did say on one of his interviews that Objective-C is going to be around for decades.
Yes.
So great.
But you know what? Now that this is Apache 2.0 licensed and out there on GitHub, they are almost not even comparable at all anymore because they're not. You can't use Objective-C now for the same things you could use Swift for. You can't do the same things to Objective-C you can do to Swift now.
Yeah,
right?
I'm still not. You see, this is the thing. I'm still not sold that Swift is ever going to be, a go-to server language, right? I don't buy it.
I'm there with you.
I mean, unless your goal is to just know one programming language your entire career, and that's why you need Swift on the server. Like these guys who want JavaScript on the back end who are crazy. I just don't buy it, right? Like, Python exists, Ruby exists, Java exists. And if you're worried about, productivity, generate everything with Rails, really. Just scaffold your way to glory.
There you go. Mike, while we're talking about backends and learning all this different stuff, good time to mention our friends over at Linux Academy, a great resource. But ding! Really, you want to learn just about every technology that Mike just said, Linux Academy has fantastic courses. Self-paced courses, nearly 2,000 of them, with videos and downloadable comprehensive study guides, audio you can take offline, 7+ distributions you can choose to adjust the courseware and the virtual servers, and instructor help is available. With all of those. All of the content, like the basics of Linux and managing the system to all the technology built around it, OpenStack and all the DevOps type stuff, and AWS as well, which is a really great resource. They have scenario-based labs, which are really fantastic, really get you down in the middle of it. You'll work in their advanced lab environments, and you'll compete scenarios from beginning to end on live servers. They have a brand new CDN that makes the distribution of the content very snappy. nice HTML5 player, so you don't have to worry about Flash anymore. I think one of the nice things about Linux Academy is the way they've been able to integrate the instructor help, and the people that create the content are really truly passionate about the subject material. So Linux Academy focuses on this area specifically. They don't do like After Effects and Premiere and PHP and Linux administration and Windows Server administration and how to be a good motivational speaker. They don't do training on that stuff because they're focused and they're passionate about this, and that's why they created the Linux Academy platform. They have graded server exercises. You can get your work evaluated while connected to a real server, actually while you're doing the work, which is really cool. And it's all in every single membership. That's how it works at Linux Academy. The community is awesome. When you log in, you can see recent announcements about people that are kicking ass, and tons of them in the community are based right here in the Jupiter Broadcasting community. So you got local friends over at the Linux Academy community. So go to linuxacademy.com/coders to support this show. linuxacademy.com/coders. It gets you a savings, but really also it's a great landing page to go there, let them know you appreciate them supporting the show, check them out, see if they're a good fit for you. Go learn about Android development, Ruby, Python, Amazon Web Services, PHP. I mean, the Red Hat courses are worth it alone, and the basics are incredible. Plus, those nuggets when you got just a little bit of time to learn something and become a little more productive. It is a great resource. And also looks great on a review or a resume. linuxacademy.com/coders, and a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Thank you, guys. So, Mike, you've been noticing a trend. You've been tweeting about it mostly. And I wonder if this next story doesn't perfectly abstract out a huge symptom or cause, like I don't know however you want to phrase it, of this trend you've been noticing. Dropbox is shutting down Mailbox and Carousel, and they're just shutting them down altogether. And I don't know if you remember, but they paid $100 million for Mailbox. $100 million, and they're just shutting it down after a little while.
That's what we call wasting money. Not to totally segue away from this, but speaking of wasting money, I got an iPad Pro over the weekend.
Shut up! Shut up! No way!
No way. Do we want to rag on Dropbox a little bit, or should I?
No, I mean, I just wanted to, because that was your point. I was going to let you make it. You're telling, because here's the thing, Mike. That is not a cheap rig. That is a serious rig.
Oh no, it is not. But just on the Dropbox thing, real quick. Startup valuations are freaking out of control. This is not the last time I'm going to say it, but I don't want to go into it again because the last 2 weeks I was all up on it. But yeah. I mean, they're insane.
Yeah, it is, and they have this kind of money, and they can do this kind of stuff, and then they can soak up the market, and then they just go away.
Go watch the movie Startup.com if you've never seen it.
I haven't.
Oh, it is like a I would even say C-level documentary, but it follows a startup called GovWorks during the first bubble in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they were getting all kinds of investment. Oh, by the way, the quote outrageous valuation they had is like pocket change for today.
I know. Yeah.
I just want to throw it out there.
Oh, the numbers. I remember when we started hearing billions for the first time. I remember when billions were I was like, wow, billions. Now it's normal.
Like I remember there's a scene in it where they have like a CFO finance guy, and he's telling the CEO and the CTO, he's basically bitching at the CTO because their product blows compared to their competitors, and he's like, I'm out there with this insane valuation of X million dollars. I'm like, dude, you would be crying today. You would be on the floor, fetal position. It's out of control, and we don't need to hammer this anymore. But really, please, anyone who thinks that we're not in a bubble, if maybe you're a little younger, go ahead and go to your local library, get the newspapers like the Wall Street Journal from 2000, 1999, 2001, read the business section, or Google it. I'm sure it's online. It is the same crap.
I think one of the reasons why you and I started hitting this point more and more, we have emails every week from high school students and college students that, I don't know if they're just inexperienced D-bags or if it is just seeped down into the culture that's startup life, and I'm going to get a startup and I'm going to get investment, and it.
Well, we both have startups. I've had two at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, the equation of how much money does it cost a month to run this business? How much money does it take in? What is an acceptable profit margin?
Right.
And when that is not a metric being used to value companies, you get insane shit like WhatsApp for how many billion
Yeah,
dollars?
billions. Yeah, or Instagram and all of the others. WhatsApp was the craziest, I believe.
Or Mailbox was pretty high up there too. What was the Mailbox? Was that 100 million? You said?
I think so. Let me see. It was $100 million. $100 million, Mike.
$100 million.
I mean, I don't mean to laugh at Dropbox, but now they're just shutting it down. You know, they're just turning it off.
You kind of should laugh at Dropbox, and honestly, someone should get fired. Like, who approved that?
I mean, they had a vision, right? They had a vision, and now they say
Then go write your own goddamn email app. Go hire 3 developers, put them in a room. It's insane. It is, in many of these cases, it would be cheaper to clone these services, to hire a freaking dev shop to do it for you, than to actually buy them.
So before we, so, the WhatsApp blog, or the Mailbox blog has a separate post about this. It's like, with a heavy heart, we announced this, but we realized there's just no fixing email. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try to improve the workflows.
Who said it was broken?
That cause email problems. Yeah, I know. That was their... Okay, so, Mike, before we go on, do you have a guess as to the final sale cost of WhatsApp?
Ooh. 16 bill.
Nope. Higher. Higher, Mike. Higher.
25.
All right, here, final poll. Here, I'm going to tell you what it was. So Facebook bought WhatsApp for $22 billion.
Holy shit, dude.
$22 billion. They only had $10 million in revenue last year, only, when they bought them, which this is right after Facebook had all that phony stock money, and I think a lot of it was probably in stock, not actual cash.
Yeah, so it's funny money anyway. Yeah.
But at the time of the sale, it was valued at $22 billion. That was $55 per user. $22 billion. That proves your point right there, doesn't it? I mean, we know what... Okay, so you bought an iPad Pro? Like, here's the thing.
Speaking of wasting large sums of money.
So when a device like that comes out, I think to myself, could this improve production? And I thought, maybe for remote podcasting, maybe, but I didn't see the use case. If I could use the pencil, maybe, but...
So can I walk you through my thought process?
Lay it on me. I'm curious.
So I have been I bought it on an impulse at Best Buy.
It's impulse?
Yeah. So all right. Well, less of an impulse. I did intentionally go there to buy it, but let me. I've been resisting and critical of the iPad Pro since it's come out. A couple weeks now, maybe a month. No, more than that. Since it was announced, I've been like, oh, it's just a bigger iPad, blah blah blah. And then I had this idea that I want to work on that's very iPad Pro specific. And I'd be like, no, but that's silly because you're required to make it backwards compatible. And what are you going to do? Degrade all the functionality and blah, 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 blah. So I let it drop. Then I was watching the Avengers movie, the first one.
Sure.
And I saw Pepper Potts with her little tablet running around running Stark Industries. Then I bought an iPad Pro.
So, so 2 things about the iPad Pro that have crossed my mind.
Go ahead.
Number 1 is I don't have a television.
Yes.
And so, but I use Plex and Emby and Netflix and YouTube for all of my video consumption. And so, if I had a 12-inch screen, that would actually be just about right for my living situation. So that has crossed my mind because then it actually gets into the justifiable price range if I'm using it as a television. And then the other thing that I've thought about, and I'm not really sold on this yet, but I am here to tell you I am a bit of a broken man in that it is almost 2016, and I have bought a laptop that has a high DPI screen. And I feel like I have paid such a price for that. So the majority of my applications, because I prefer GTK applications, are fine on a high DPI. They have their pixel double. They look fine. A lot of applications, though, on the Linux desktop and on the Windows desktop, not that I use Windows, but in testing, I did confirm this, look like crap. They're tiny. They're too small. You got to blow them up or they don't look right. But huge battery hit, a huge gaming performance hit. I just am constantly like, It is. I feel like now, for my entire life of owning laptops, I've always had to compromise a little bit. Usually because maybe I want to run Linux, or maybe because I want a super thin laptop with a Core i7 processor and a high DPI display.
Yeah, super reasonable request.
Yeah, there's things like that. And so, but I am consistently let down, and I just thought maybe what I ought to do is just try to do the tablet thing and just see if maybe I would just run off a tablet for a while when I'm not at work. When I'm working from home, maybe I just do the tablet thing. And I mean, and the iPad Pro would then start to make more sense in the context of, well, it would give me a television and it would give me a high DPI workspace that, I really just want to write notes and watch video and browse the web and you write things in Markdown that doesn't look like shit. It just gets really frustrating. And so I thought maybe the iPad would be good there, but I wouldn't do it until I was ready to replace my existing machine because the price point is so high. And I'm not
yeah.
I mean,
no. Go away. Hit it hard, baby. Hit it hard.
That's it. I mean, it just feels like it's too. Yeah. If this was starting at $699, maybe that would be more reasonable. But yeah.
So early in the show's history, way back when we were all young kids with toy wagons and horsies, we talked about how I was a reluctant Apple developer, right? I was pulled into it by an uncle who gave me an iPad. That first stupid iPad 1 is actually, I was doing Little Apple before that, but really got into it. I had a dream of this being the tablet PC that you could do run complex software, that the iPad or some tablet would be the go-to computer for the vast majority of office workers, business types. That hasn't happened. Remember last year or the year before, I lost lots of money betting on the Surface Pro. Great. So in the tradition of all crazy people, I'm repeating failure again with the iPad Pro.
In the name of a tax write-off.
Yeah, Chris, at some level it doesn't matter anymore.
No, I know, but there is an element I would rather eat 70% of the cost of this just so I could not give that 20% in tax anymore. This line, no father.
No. There is a story with that quote that I will not tell on the air. Maybe not yet.
So I wonder though, Mike, here is what gets me because I'm a guy that I look at the specs, right? And I look at this and I go, a couple of things jump out at me about this. It is crippled in traditional Apple ways that just don't make sense to me.
Yes, but not in the specs. See, yes, it's exactly what I want to talk about.
Why doesn't have? Why? I mean, this would be.
Specs are fine.
It would
the
be
hardware is fine.
It would be so much more usable if it had an SD card slot. I know that's a weird thing, but I want to just give you a moment because there is actually a couple of interesting video editors and audio editors on the iPad. But they are all, and they have to be, built around the concept that content was created via the iPad. Right. In reality, if I was going to do serious production on an iPad, I want to bring in an actual camera feed, or I want to bring in an actual audio feed. And second best to getting some sort of crazy-ass lightning adapter, I would rather just be recorded to an SD card, like the GoPro does, like all professional hardware-based audio recorders do. And then just bring it in. So right here on the iPad, they are showing video editing right now on the Apple website that I'm showing on the screen. Right. This is not a realistic opportunity if you have to record all of the content on the iPad itself or use some crazy-ass lightning dongle.
So that may be a problem for video editing people, right?
Or but audio, which is honestly a very big category now. Yeah.
Right. There is a much larger problem, or a series of larger problems, that I'm hoping will be solved. Because if they aren't solved, this will be an $800 paperweight.
Mm.
One is they can't get a goddamn pencil in the state for some reason.
Really? Yeah.
You cannot buy one of these pencils.
Yeah, the pencils are what, $100 a pop?
They're $100, yeah.
Oof.
But
and aren't they just the thing? You get a keyboard with it, you get a pencil. Isn't that just a mouse and a keyboard now, basically?
You do not get a keyboard or a pencil with it.
No, you have to buy them separately. I know. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a list of things I'm concerned about with this device. I don't want to be overly negative. I am very positive on where this could take computing. really they're just copying Microsoft, but they're Apple, so people will pay attention. One, the economics of developing. So one, iPad Pro apps in my mind are not going to be, or not all going to be these straight consumption type apps that we've seen on, the iPad Classic or iOS in general. They're going to be professional content creation apps, professional work apps. There's a big problem there, though, with the way Apple has structured their OS. There's a couple of things, right? One, inter-app communication is terrible. Apple takes 30%. That's terrible. The real problem, Chris, to continue development at a professional level on a professional quality piece of software and never being able to make another dime off the user again is not possible.
Yeah, well, there are different approaches. Like the Tweetbot, people have Tweetbot 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they make them as separate
binaries.
Yeah.
I have an idea of how I could get around it with in-app purchases, where it's basically a yearly purchase that is effectively a paid upgrade.
That could work too. And look at how predominant, persistent, and invasive subscription type services are in enterprise. It isn't assumed that it comes with a support subscription.
Right. The problem is one, and I'm a little afraid to even say what my idea for the getting around the rules are, just that someone will try it and get rejected and be pissed off. So I'll say it, but if you try it and you get slapped down by the Apple gods, don't cry to me. Why can't you every year have a new paid update that is just, this new functionality with this and this and these changes, right? So any basic change in UI, you'd have to give all the users for free.
Do you think if the other app stores like the Play Store or Microsoft were more revenue, we generated more revenue for developers, that maybe Apple would have to respond competitively? It's almost like because the App Store is sort of the place to go to make revenue if you're making these types of apps, they don't have to.
One, I would challenge that because, you can, again, Google it, but not a lot of people are making much revenue other than, really nasty game companies. I think the thing that's going to challenge their policy is the iPad Pro itself. It's that the economics of developing a professional quality app, you can't do it for $5, right?
Right.
You need to make, and you can't even do it for $100 once and support that user forever. It needs to be something like $100 a year.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, by older standards, is super cheap. And this is kind of where I'm hesitating. You're dealing in an ecosystem where the gatekeeper can just say no because it's Tuesday and they want to say no, right? At what point is the iPad Pro not totally crippled by the fact that no one can make money making professional grade software on it, unless they're doing some kind of weird cloud subscription, which is what you're suggesting?
Have you tried the multitasking, like the side-by-side app stuff? How's that?
It's actually not bad.
Yeah.
The problem is most people don't support it.
I don't know. I have an iPad Air, I think.
Right.
It's not an Air 2. It's an older iPad. And I did the iOS 9 update, and all of a sudden now I have this sidebar I could pull out, and a whole bunch of apps are listed there, including Chrome and a whole bunch of apps. Like, I was really surprised how many apps were listed there.
Yeah.
And it works surprisingly well. It's not a full windowed interface, but it's more like a it reminds me of a tiled window manager under Linux.
Ooh.
It really does, because it automatically rearranges stuff, and the apps just sort of rearrange their UI, and I don't know, it worked pretty well for me.
Yeah, no, a lot of the new APIs, a lot of the new functionality on the Pro, and even in iOS 9, are really compelling for more professional quality applications. Again, you got to be able to make money off of it.
How's the sound? Because I know it has those 4 speakers.
Yeah, I haven't done much with the sound.
Okay. I'd be curious to know, because if it's going to be a TV.
Yeah. One thing I will tell you that it is a lot bigger than it looks online.
Yeah, I saw it. I think I saw it at Costco.
Okay.
So I've held it, and it basically just looks like a huge regular iPad.
If you're carrying, and this is kind of my vision for it, if you're carrying an iPad Pro, that's probably all you're carrying, other than like your phone.
In a world of 5-inch plus phones and 6-inch phones and larger,
Right.
I guess a larger tablet makes sense. So, one of the things, just a little bugaboo about it that just was kind of like, why did they go this way? Is I guess it has the old Touch ID sensor from the previous iPhones, not the Touch ID sensor that's nice and fast from the 6S.
Margins.
Yeah, just it's interesting how they just.
I mean, all right. So I was really annoyed, that the pencil isn't in the damn box.
Did you try the keyboard?
No, they didn't have the keyboard either.
So no pencil, no keyboard. Yeah,
No
the
pencil. No one had the pencil.
The pencil
no one had
should
the keyboard.
absolutely come with it.
Like, yeah, I understand not giving me the keyboard, right? But the pencil's like it's sitting on my desk, being golden because gold was the only color they had in the lowest end model. So fabulous. And it's like taunting me because right now all it is a giant freaking iPad, and
Yeah.
I just want to like whip out Adobe's little Illustrator app and be like, all right, let me just see what this is going.
So as a device, though, you find it to be pretty decent.
I think it has a good shot.
Could it be a laptop replacement?
Yes, I think it could. But you're making so again. This is kind of the larger point I'm trying to make. I don't think there's anything in the hardware other than the fact that they don't give you the pencil or the keyboard for $800, by the way, which is that prevents you from being a laptop replacement. But the software, iOS 9 or iOS in general, looks like you put Fisher Price OS on a Dell XPS.
Yeah, they're gonna have to push. They're gonna have to push the iOS forward more. I mean, it's
my dream that's not going to happen is that the iPad Pro becomes a different product line. Where you don't have to care about backwards.
As a Linux user, I was just wondering because it seems like if the fantasy of maybe giving up on the laptop, Linux on my desktop, Linux on my servers, maybe even Linux on my phone, and then an iPad Pro when I can't get it done on my phone. So my most recent trip, it was kind of a big deal. When I went to Colorado to visit System 76, I didn't bring a laptop for the first time ever. I brought that iPad Air just in case. I never actually used it, but I brought it just in case I needed a keyboard because I have a Logitech keyboard for it.
Right.
And I actually ended up using System 76 machines instead. Anyways, I thought, well, let's see if I can do it. And I'll be honest with you, Mike, I didn't. I ended up saying, screw it, I want a laptop because I wanted to copy and paste. I wanted to go window to window.
Yeah, that's the stuff. The interoperability stuff is where it's got its problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a software problem, right? That is
Yeah.
And here's the thing: the only thing holding that back is Apple policy.
Well, and with the side-by-side apps and things like that, like really all I need is a Markdown editor and a web browser, and I can do a lot of show research. I can get a lot of research done. But it just I need to be able to take data from one screen and put data in the other screen and see both screens at the same time. And maybe they could do that now. I didn't have iOS 9 on the iPad, so I didn't even bother. It
is better, but it's not. Your workflow is going to hiccup once you need to cross the stream, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's not the apps truly are sort of isolated from each other. At the end of the day, there's costs you pay for that. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, at some point, again, not to be a total 90s fanboy, but at some point I'm hoping we get to more of like an open doc style model where the document or the data you're working on becomes king rather than these weird little silos. And, if you're in a text document, you can just pipe that to, Byword or pipe it to Vim or whatever, right? I'm just naming.
I can see the advantage of Chromebooks, though, for this class of device. Now, for me, the reason why the iPad Pro almost seemed impossible is because, it would also serve as a television, which is, then the Chromebook is not as appealing. But the Chromebook, doesn't have that siloed limitation.
It doesn't. But then you're using a Chromebook.
That's true.
Boom.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I could get away with doing a lot of my work on the iPad Pro other than all of the development work. So, like half of it?
Right. That's the thing. So, what you got to do, Mike, is you got to just take on a challenge. Like when the new kid arrives, you should just take a week off from any development work and just see if you can work, or 2 weeks or whatever it is. You just see if you can do all of like the maintaining you have to do just to make sure your business doesn't go dark via the iPad.
So can I tell you a dirty little secret?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Most of what I do is already from like either a Nexus 7 or an iPad in terms of like emails, spreadsheets, all that stuff. I do all accounting in bed where, keeping the accounting spicy, if you know what I mean.
Heyo.
Credit, debit, cost overrun.
Wow.
Ooh. Wow.
Make sure everything's in the red. Ouch. No.
Ouch.
Avoid.
Ooh.
Avoid. Oh, let's go somewhere
All
else.
those parentheses around those numbers are making me cry.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, don't forget to take advantage of Buccaneer Tech's
Right.
Black Friday promotion.
Yeah. So is that still going on for a little bit? But where would I go if I wanted to do that?
Buccaneer.io. It is
that's
going
easy.
on until December 31st. Then it's not.
Nice. There you go. Okay, so we got one email to get to before we get out of here. Okay,
Damn.
So let's do it real quick. Here we go. Stefan. I should probably get that one right. Stefan writes in. He says, I work full-time as a developer, but I've never really ventured into mobile development. I have an idea and motivation now to start my first mobile app. A couple episodes ago, you spoke highly of the, guess what, Ionic framework. I like this idea for more easily targeting iOS and Android devices. My question, though, is this. My first mobile app, would you recommend diving right into something like Ionic? Or are there nuances of mobile development that are important for my success that only or best can be learned through hard, native, low-level development? Your thoughts, Mike?
If you have an actual project you need to do it, right? I don't believe that you need to, know every. I mean, it helps. It would certainly help.
You must first snatch this walnut from my hand before you can develop.
I'm not going to Mr. Miyagi you. No, go for it. I mean, there's stuff that might seem weird, particularly in the view lifecycle on iOS. That's going to just because you don't know how that works, but go with it anyway.
Yeah, and I think Mike nailed it. See, it depends. There's not one answer, because for some people they want to learn it all. They want to absorb as much knowledge as possible before they make their first move, because that is the only reasonable thing to do, and doing anything else would be risky. And then there's other people that say, I'm pretty sure I can learn on my feet, and I've got some motivation to actually put some rubber to the road right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build this thing and I'm going to ship it, and then I'm going to fill in the gaps as fast as possible because I know I can Google something or I can hire somebody, and I have confidence in myself to figure that out. Both are very valid approaches, and there's probably even more approaches than just that, but those are two really common approaches before you ship something. Well, and a lot of times, if you can get really weighed down in what tool should I use. So I like, if you're ready, and something like Ionic looks appealing, ship.
Well, it's basically, you're asking, this is an argument about abstraction, right? Do I need to, because really, what is Ionic doing? It's abstracting away some of the platform-specific stuff.
Right.
So there, as with any abstraction, right, if you don't know the layer below it, of course there's going to be a case where you might suck and need to go desperately back over something. It's a question, but that doesn't mean you should get it. However, if you really stick with this and you keep developing mobile apps, for a year or two, it would probably make sense for you to at least pick one of the platforms to learn, in this abstraction, the layer underneath, which would be one of the native SDKs, right? Yeah. Whether it be Android or iOS, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Wow.
I actually understood it. I don't know. Skype just got all crappy, but I actually managed to understand everything you said, and that was actually a really good point. Yeah. So look at Skype. That's kind of amazing that it pulled that through. All right. Yeah. So Stefan, good luck, and thank you for sending in emails. I responded to a couple of you individually this week because we just couldn't fit it in, but do keep sending in your emails. We got a bunch last week, and it was really nice because it gives us a nice kind of selection to poke through, and we really appreciate that. So go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact to send yours in, or go to coderradio.reddit.com and put it out there in front of everybody, so they can all see it. Mike, is there anything else we need to cover before we get out of here?
No. I mean, I'm going to have some more stuff about Swift next week, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah. And maybe based on their feedback, too, out there in their community. Also, we'll have a thread for 182 dedicated over at coderradio.reddit.com, which is a really good spot, because I usually check that before we go on air. So it's a good way to get something in front of us. But yeah, and don't forget, we do have that swag giveaway. Just find the link in the show notes and be a successful Patreon subscriber over at patreon.com/today. Don't forget to go check out buccaneertech.io for that Black Friday deal, and follow us on Twitter.
Buccaneer.io.
Buccaneer. Oh yeah, okay. Well, you don't have both? I mean, come on, Mike.
Oh, hang on. Shh. Nobody registered.
Yeah, right, yeah. Okay. And at Jupiter Signal is the network feed for when we're live and things like that. You can check jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar as well for our live times. We'll be back for, I think, one more live one before the holidays at jblive.tv. So tune in for that next Monday. Bye, everybody.